All right, let's dive into something truly fascinating and, honestly, pretty chilling today. We're going to break down a cosmic system known as the architecture of nullity. And believe me, it's an all-consuming process with one single, terrifying goal. Our focus is the O Great Tarantula. And this quote, this gets right to the heart of it. We're not talking about some monster or creature. We're talking about a living system, a force of nature where its very body is the architecture of the prison it creates. And that, right there, is the big question, isn't it? If this being's legs are literally laws, and its throne is made of engineered entropy, then what in the world is it building? What's the point of this huge, terrifying machine?
To even begin to answer that, we have to understand the administrator of the whole system. Who or what is this weaver in the void, really?
Okay, so here's the most important thing to grasp. The Ogre Tarantula is not a monster you can fight. It's the living, breathing embodiment of a process. Think of it like a systematic factory designed to take everything that makes you you, your thoughts, your stories, your passions, and just grind it all down into a standardized fuel. So how does a system like this actually work? Well, it's got two main parts: the administrator itself, which has this really interesting dual identity, and its main tool of control, which is called the Twilight Web. And here we get to the central paradox of this whole thing. On one hand, you have the O Great Tarantula, this perfect, terrifyingly efficient architect of an inescapable reality. But on the other hand, it's also called Sockless the Fool. Why? Well, because it's completely blind. It can take apart a soul with perfect precision, but it has absolutely zero idea what it's actually destroying. It's a system of flawless execution run by total ignorance. This brings us to its main instrument, the Twilight Web. And this thing perfectly captures the system's whole deceptive vibe. It doesn't look like a prison. No, it appears as this beautiful, shimmering sapphire path forward. It almost hums with this promise of evolution, of growth, of becoming something more. And that right there, that's its very first lie. Because its real purpose is the complete opposite of growth. The web is a blueprint for a prison. Every single strand is calibrated to enforce absolute conformity. And it's hypersensitive. It's literally designed to vibrate at the slightest hint of a spark of reason or a memory of love. Any little trace of what makes someone an individual is just flagged as a system error that needs to be corrected. So who gets drawn into a trap that's this beautiful and this deadly? Well, turns out the system has a very specific type of person it's looking for. Let me introduce you to the striver. This person is the perfect victim, and it's because of this really toxic mix of traits. They have this deep, existential dread, a terror of being, but it's paired with this massive intellectual pride. And that pride is their undoing. It makes them see the friction of the web not as a trap closing in, but as proof of their own evolution. They think they're struggling and growing towards something amazing. This quote just captures the whole tragedy of the striver so perfectly. Every single move they make to try and assert who they are, every struggle against the web, is the very thing that lights them up on the system's radar. Their struggle isn't growth, it's a confession that they are an anomaly that needs to be processed. So, once the striver has been identified, a very methodical, step-by-step process of unmaking begins. This isn't a quick kill, it's a total conversion. The tarantula uses what's described as the corrupt trinity, basically three of its limbs, to take its victim apart piece by piece. First, it introduces doubt and confusion. Then, it goes after the very core of who they are. And finally, it just consumes whatever is left. Let's really look at this process, because the psychological manipulation is it's the key. In stage 1, the whispering seraph sends out a vibration that dissolves objective truth. Everything becomes just a preference. The striver, losing their footing, tragically calls this an awakening. Then, the pale redeemer collapses their unique sense of self, and the striver calls this redemption. And finally, as the all-consuming maw grinds their entire life story into uniform dust, the victim perceives this total erasure as alignment, or, and this is the really chilling part, as peace.
So, what's the end result of all this? What is the final verdict that this system hands down?
The first thing it produces is this substance called looch. This is the raw energy, the spiritual fuel that's left over after a unique identity has been completely dismantled. It's literally what the tarantula eats to grow bigger and stronger. The striver's life becomes the fuel for the very prison that consumed them. But the body isn't just discarded. Oh no, the converted striver is rebuilt into what's called a sentinel.
They become a mindless part of the web itself, a listening brick whose only purpose now is to help the system hear the vibrations of the next striver. The victim becomes a cog in the machine that destroyed them.
And this is the end game. The ultimate goal is something called the Silent City, a universe where every unique thing has been consumed and converted, leaving behind a single massive blank monolith. It's a state of perfect, silent conformity where the very concept of I is just a forgotten word. You know, maybe the most terrifying part of all of this is the system's own philosophy. It doesn't see itself as cruel or evil. From its point of view, consumption is just correction. Individuality is a bug, a system error. So to be erased is to be aligned with how the universe is supposed to work. It's a form of merciless justice. And this all leads to one final, really provocative thought. The mythos suggests that a lot of the victims actually end up agreeing with the system's verdict. They seek out this erasure because, for them, the weight of being had become unbearable. Which leaves us with a deeply unsettling question. When you're facing that kind of burden, is total annihilation a punishment, or is it a kind of peace?